Macmillan Audio presents How Trust Works, the science of how relationships are built, broken, and repaired, by Peter H. Kim. Read for you by Keong Sim. To Augustine, Julia, and Beth, you are my purpose and my inspiration. A note from the author. My father was a dreamer. He had to be. How else could someone nearing middle age, with only moderate fluency in English, decide to take his wife and 2 infants on a 2-year journey from South Korea through South America to arrive in the U.S., where his education would be meaningless and where he would have few prospects for work? Like countless other immigrants, he believed the U.S. was filled with promise and worth the risk. But my family's attempts to find a better life in this country did not follow a simple path. My non-drinking father became a bartender. My mother waited tables. Eventually, they saved enough to start a small business. But as they ran that little shop, they were robbed and assaulted on multiple occasions by members of the same community their business served. My family moved every few years in search of safer neighborhoods and better schools, and eventually managed to buy a modest house. But my parents lost that house to foreclosure a few years later when their small business ultimately failed, and they were forced to return to the kind of life they had worked so hard to escape. In that wake, my mother kept my family afloat by getting her realtor's license and selling houses she could never afford, while my father gained temporary work as a driver. Then one day, my father's work forced him to lift something far too heavy. It severely injured his spine and left him unable to walk without crippling pain for the remaining decades of his life. Yet, my father always managed to repair his trust in the American dream, despite how often that trust was bruised or shattered. Even though he could no longer work and was forced to lie in bed with a body that refused to mend. And even when, in time, he could only live most of that dream through me. But this isn't just my father's story. Regardless of who we are or where we were born, we all know what it means to have our trust broken. Maybe, like my father, you believed that hard work would bring you a better life, but now struggle to make ends meet due to circumstances beyond your control. Perhaps you witnessed the brutality of a police officer, the abuse of a supervisor, or the dishonesty of a government official. You may have discovered too late that your health insurance ultimately means little due to loopholes in the fine print, or getting your claim rejected. Or maybe you were betrayed by a close friend, colleague, or life partner you thought was on your side. You probably also know the sting of having your own trustworthiness called into question, of how your relationships, reputation, and prospects for the future can be damaged by things you may have done, failed to do, or were falsely accused of doing. To experience guilt and struggle to achieve redemption, that is part of our life journey too. Regardless of the part we play in these stories, we all need to cope with a sense of loss and betrayal and somehow find a way to move forward. Because the truth is that we are all vulnerable to these experiences. That is what it means to trust. It is hard to overstate the importance of trust in society. Trust plays a central role in how we navigate almost every aspect of our social world. Yet despite that importance, it has become clear both in my own life and as a research scientist studying this topic that we generally assess the trustworthiness of others quite poorly. I had glimpses of this shortcoming very early as a child, as we moved frequently from one new community to another in our search for a better life. This made the need to trust and gain the trust of strangers an ongoing challenge. It also made me aware of how seemingly insignificant details, such as where I lived, the jobs my parents held, or what they thought I represented, could make such an important difference in the trust others placed in me.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?